Steve. I'm here. Barely.
She should be president, but rock.
Oh, well, I'm ready to start the meeting now. Who's got the slip
Yeah, you got us.
Test. Look at it, they bunched up over there. They bunched up over there. I'm glad we ain't sitting like that all bunched up.
Okay. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead. Okay.
He must be in your ward, that big guy.
Yeah, he's in my ward.
Good evening.
I invited my people to come.
Good for you.
May I have your attention, please?
Jeffrey, right? Jeff
I'm Inez M. Brown, the city clerk for the city of Flint, and I would like to call this city council meeting to order. The first order of business tonight is the annual election of the city council president. Therefore, in accordance with section 3-201B of the new city charter, the clerk shall preside until the city council has chosen a president. Thus, my presence in this honorable chair until the president is chosen by his or her peers. Therefore, at this time, we will commence the process for choosing the city council president. And we commence with roll calls for the election of the chair. And I will commence with the first ward, Mr. Mays.
Mr. Herb Winfrey.
Mr. Davis.
Mr. Eric Mays.
Ms. Fields.
Kate Fields.
Ms. Winfrey Carter.
Mr. Herbert Winfrey.
Mr. Winfrey.
Herbert Winfrey.
Ms. Galloway.
Herbert Winfrey.
Mr. Griggs.
Kate Fields.
Ms. Worthing.
Kate Fields.
The vote is 5 for Mr. Winfrey, 3 for Ms. Fields, and 1 for Mr. Mays. I relinquish the chair at this time to ask that the new president come forward.
I'm not good at acting happy when I'm not.
Proceed, Madam Clerk. Yes. The organization of the City Council, Council Vice President, the City Council shall elect from its members an officer who shall be known as Vice President of the Council. Madam Clerk.
Mr. Mays?
Now, a point of order, it would start with Mr. Davis.
This is kind of a new round,
Second
but if
vote.
that's the way you want to do it, we'll do it that way. Mr. Davis?
Councilman Mays.
Mr. Guerra?
Ms. Galloway.
Ms. Fields?
Miss Galloway.
Ms. Winfrey Carter?
Miss Galloway.
Mr. Winfrey?
Ms. Galloway.
Ms. Galloway?
Miss Galloway.
Mr. Griggs?
Fields.
Pardon?
Kate Fields.
Ms. Worthing?
Kate Fields.
Mr. Mays?
Miss Monica Galloway.
The vote is 6 for Ms. Galloway, 2 for Ms. Fields, and 1 for Mr. Mays. Ms. Galloway.
Organization of the City Council, other officers and committees, and according to the charter, the council may select such other officers as it deems necessary. It says the president-elect of the City Council may appoint officers of the Finance, Governmental Ops, Legislative and Grants Committees and subcommittees as deemed necessary. We do have a need for those committees. And right now, I would like for those that are serving to continue to serve until we have a, if you will agree to serve until we have a one-on-one, and then it is at that time that we may shift, make changes, but those that are serving as finance, legislative, governmental ops, and grants committees, I would like for you to continue to serve until you and I have a one-on-one. And then at the next council meeting, regular council meeting, I will announce those folks permanently.
Point of information.
What's
Would
your point,
that
Council?
also include the chairman of the Rules Committee, Mr. Davis?
Yes. Thank you, Councilman Mays. And I'm sorry for leaving you out, Councilman Davis. You are just as important as all of the rest of us. Please forgive
Maybe
me, sir.
more. Mr. President,
Councilman Mays?
well, I don't know where we at on the agenda. Is it roll call?
Roll call. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Mr. Mays?
Present.
Mr. Davis?
Present.
Mr. Guerra?
Present.
Ms. Fields?
Present.
Ms. Winfrey Carter?
Present.
Mr. Winfrey?
Present.
Ms. Galloway?
Present.
Mr. Griggs?
Present.
Ms. Worthing?
Present.
Thank you.
Mr. President,
Councilman Mays?
I noticed Mayor Weaver in the audience, and I wanted to see if she could lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, and if we need to do any special order, I would be willing to ask for that as it relates to the Honorable Mayor Weaver, who is in our presence on this Veterans Day.
Mayor Weaver, are you here? I didn't see her. Would you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a prayer by Pastor Allen Gilbert?
Okay, let me say that again. I wanted to take an opportunity to congratulate both you and Councilwoman Galloway on becoming president and vice president. You're welcome.
Mr. President, would it be okay if a veteran on this Veterans Day, some veteran, if there's one in the audience, is called to say the prayer?
Sure, if there is one such. Pastor Gilbert, please come.
Eternal God and our Father, we thank you, Lord, for this day that you have given us. We realize that in all things we give thanks, for this is the will of God in Christ Jesus concerning you. We pray, oh God, for the city of Flint today, all its officers, the president, vice president, and our precious mayor, Mayor Karen Williams Weaver. We pray, oh God, today that this meeting will be to glorify and magnify your name forever and place Flint in the front and not in the back. In the name of Jesus, we give you glory and honor and praise forever throughout all the days of our life. In Jesus' name, amen.
And before we seat, I would like to have a moment of silence for those in California and those fire victims. Also for those that were in Pittsburgh at the synagogue and all over this country where people are having problems with these random shootings and things, just for a moment of silent prayer. A moment of silence, rather. Thank you.
Mr. President. Mr. President.
Councilman?
Could you please ask the veterans to stand?
I sure will. Thank you. Thank you very much. Do we have veterans that are here in the chambers? All veterans, please stand. And to all of you, thank you for your service to this country. Reading of the Disorderly Persons City Code subsection. Any person that persists in disrupting this meeting will be in violation of the Flint City Code section 31-10, disorderly conduct, assault and battery, and disorderly persons, and will be subject to arrest for a misdemeanor. Any person who prevents the peaceful and orderly conduct of any meeting will be given one warning. If they persist in disrupting the meeting, that individual will be subject to arrest. Violators shall be removed from the meetings. At this time, are there any requests for changes and/or additions to the agenda? Councilwoman, Council Vice President.
Mr. President, I'm asking that the liquor license 180572 for Mott Community College Culinary Arts would be placed sort of like a special order. We do have Dr. Beverly and her team here, and I was hoping that we could move that up before public speaking.
Okay, so do you want it right behind presentation of minutes?
Yes. Please.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor
Mr.
that we move. Councilman
Yeah,
Mays.
Mr. President, in addition to that, I'm going to ask that we have a item on the agenda prior to final council comments, which has any additional council discussion. Any additional council discussion prior to final comments.
Okay, additional council discussion? Okay, Madam Clerk?
We have one additional add-on as well.
Okay.
It's the approval of a settlement.
Okay.
additional add-on resolution? What point of information, what would be the add-on?
I would ask the city attorney to explain it, and we'll pass it out.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead right ahead.
Thank you. This is this will be for the approval of the settlement in Middleton versus City of Flint. We had this matter up for executive session last week.
Add-on number 1, it would be tagged.
Okay.
So it would go in with the master resolution.
Separate things to be voted on separately.
Mr. President,
Yes, sir.
Ms. Fields, Ms. Worthing, and Mr. Griggs wasn't here, but we had discussion in Finance Committee meeting as it relates to the motion that was passed and what it might take in a regular council meeting. And if they miss that, then I'll bring them up to speed during any council discussion where there's an opportunity to see what happens with that motion. But we'll do that, I guess, in any additional council discussion as it relates to the conversation we had. So
Okay.
I don't have any more proposed changes.
All right, so
And
there's
I
a,
do support the special order.
okay, so there's a motion that we move 180572. Included in that motion was additional council discussions and add-on number 1. Is there support for that motion?
Mr. President,
Councilman Mays.
I would support that.
It's been moved and supported. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, Madam Clerk.
Okay, Mr. Mays?
Who?
Mr. Mays.
Should be Gary. Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Mr. Guerra?
Yes.
Ms. Fields? Yes. Ms. Winfrey Carter?
Yes.
Mr. Winfrey?
Yes.
Ms. Galloway?
Yes.
Mr. Briggs?
Yes.
Ms. Worthing?
Yes.
The vote is 9 yes, 0 no.
Thank you. What's the council's pleasure on presentation of minutes 180574?
Mr. President.
Councilman Mays.
Mr. President, I would move 180574, the summary minutes, Flint Council meeting of October 22nd, 2018, for approval with any necessary corrections.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor. Is there support for the motion?
Mr. President,
Councilwoman Galloway.
I second that.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, Madam Clerk.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Mr. Guerra?
Yes.
Ms. Fields? Yes. Mr. Winfrey? Ms.
Ye-
Winfrey Carter, rather?
Yes.
Mr. Winfrey?
Yes.
Ms. Galloway?
Yes.
Mr. Briggs?
Yes.
Ms. Worthing?
Yes.
Mr. Mays?
Yes.
The vote is 9 yes, 0 no.
Okay. So this brings us to the special order, so to speak, the 180572, Charles Stewart Mott Community College Culinary Arts. And I think in fact, I know we have the president of Mott College, Dr. Graffia. Would you please come up and you have some members of your staff, is that correct? Yes, I do. They can come as well.
We're pleased to come before you to ask for support in the passing of our liquor license for our Mott Community College Culinary Arts Institute that will open in January. We believe that having this will give us more opportunity to bring more income and economic sustainability to the area due to the amount of catering that we can do with this. We also have enjoyed your support in the past, and we hope that we will continue to have that support tonight. I have with me Dr. Amy Fugate, who is our Vice President of Academic Affairs, our Dean of Business, Mr. Steven Schubert, our CFO, Mr. Larry Gothrop, and then our Director of Facilities, Mr. Chad Sturrett. And so we are all here because we know the importance that this brings to the area, and we know the importance of having your support. So thank you.
Thank you, ma'am, and thank you all for coming. I'd like to entertain a motion to approve this.
Mr. President,
Councilwoman Galloway.
I make a motion that we approve resolution,
180.
180572.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor. Councilman Guerra.
I'll second that motion.
There's been a motion to approve 180572, and it has been properly supported or seconded. Is there any discussion?
Mr. President.
Councilman Mays.
Yeah, Mr. President, this is the Mott Community College Culinary Arts Institute located at 550 South Saginaw. That's the construction going on right there on that corner of Saginaw, and it's going to be Mott College's Culinary School, where people can come in and get culinary arts degrees and things of that nature. We have given them certain tax breaks and or incentives, whatever the proper terminology would be, but I consciously voted to get that school over there downtown, so that'll be away from campus. People will look at it and be able to know that that's Mott College Culinary School. That's a fair statement. Just like they can look and see Michigan State over there. That's what I like to see, Michigan State.
Mr. President, I make a motion that we...
Culinary School. You see, I didn't mention the other school, but U of M is that. But I did that on purpose, but I'll be voting to support this motion because I think it's some value that can come out of, I'm going to call it a $1 million project. And so I've supported it from the beginning. I walked through that tore-up building with a couple, 2, 3 people that's here now. And so I just wanted the community to know I've been following that project. I've been consciously voting on it, just like I'll vote for this. But now, a culinary school will also, the students, if I'm understanding this right, will be cooking and people can buy food and, you know, eat. And so you think somebody might want some wine or something. That's what this liquor license must be for. I'm going to stay away from the wine and the, but anyway. So I'll vote to approve this. It looked like a Class C license to sell alcohol and liquor under Michigan Compiled Law 436.15138. And it'll be part of the culinary school's operation. And so I just like for people to know what I'm doing. Don't turn around later and say Mays didn't talk about it. I could talk more. But for right now, I'm going to say thank you, and I'll be voting in favor of this.
Thank you. Councilwoman Winfrey Carter.
Thank you, Mr. President. Dr. Beverly, I do want to say thank you, guys. I am looking forward to this addition to the 5th Ward. Yes. And I want to thank you guys, and I fully support what you're trying to do. Right there, I did have an opportunity to tour the building, and I can't wait until you guys are finished, and I will be supporting you fully.
Any other Councilman Davis?
Thank you, Mr. President. It's always a pleasure to see revitalization and development coming to Flint, because for years we didn't have this, and it's such an honor to see this. And I look forward to this type of development, and also I look forward to the, let me get it right, the North Campus coming pretty soon, far north. Keep up the good work. Thank you very much.
Any other discussion?
Mr. President.
Councilwoman Galloway.
I want to add also that this opening opens the door for more enrollees to take part in the culinary arts division of Mott Community College, which is recognized very highly. And so there's some exciting opportunities there. And so hopefully some of the students that go to other culinary, and we're not saying anything about that, but those that are local have a place that they can possibly go that really creates affordability in learning as well. So I'm very excited for not just the partnership with the school and the community, but with this body as well. So thank you very much.
Any other discussion?
Mr. President.
Councilman Mays.
If I may finally piggybacking on what Ms. Galloway said, I'll be looking to see how many local people enroll and how they do. And then I teased the gentleman earlier. I say if you need a official taster, I'll check it out. So I wish y'all would.
Any other discussion? Madam Clerk, roll call.
Mr. Guerra?
Yes.
Ms. Fields?
Yes.
Ms. Winfrey Carter?
Yes.
Mr. Winfrey?
Yes.
Ms. Galloway?
Yes.
Mr. Griggs?
Yes.
Ms. Worthing?
Yes.
Mr. Mays?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
The vote is 9 yes, 0 no on 180572.
Okay. Madam Clerk, do we have any public hearings?
No, we do not at this time.
This brings us to public speaking. Our first public speaker.
Our first public speaker is Mrs. Dorothy Batchelder. Dorothy Batchelder.
Hi, my name is Dorothy Batchelder, and I live in Holly. My daughter and I have addressed the previous council on several different issues, Ms. Fields being one of them. I have watched her ask the audience to stand up when she said sexual harassment, I believe, against Eric Mays. That was neither the place nor the time. I have asked Mr. Mays and the City Council for a financial audit. That didn't happen. Seems that we got rid of a few that used to be the ones that always used to hassle Mr. Mays. I've watched Kate Fields deliberately taunt him, knowing his reaction. When she attacks him, he's going to attack back, not the place. I hope and did hope, and haven't been at this council for many meetings, but I did watch the last one, and I watched Mr. Arthur Woodson, who handed me the 2011 water report, the Flint River, as a viable drinking source. You guys had the information. The previous council did nothing. It was okay for Flint citizens to drink it, but not the GM plant. It rusted their parts. Oh my goodness. What do you think it did to the insides of people? I've been poisoned twice. My daughter has too. Once in North Carolina, and now from drinking the Flint River water. There's 26 different chemicals in that water besides lead. Instead of arguing, Ms. Fields, I believe you sued the city and made money. I think that you need to quit the bickering and learn to get along. I sat through that meeting from 4 o'clock. I'm soon to be 75 years old. I shouldn't have to address you. You guys should do your damn jobs.
Thank you, Mrs. Batchelder. Madam Clerk, our next speaker.
Our next speaker is Mrs. Audrey Muhammad.
Ms. Audrey Muhammad.
Good evening. I'd like to speak on a few issues that has taken place, especially at the last council meeting. One, I'd like to define what a racist is. It's a person who shows or feels discrimination or prejudice against against people of other races or who believes that a particular race is superior to another. In order to be a racist, you got to have some kind of a financial power or some kind of a great influence. I sat in the hallway and heard Kate Fields come out and accuse Eric Mays of being a racist. That is not acceptable for you to come out there. And I think I publicly said that on Facebook. It is not ever acceptable. Not to me. You can never come to me and do that. If I have a problem with one of them, I will go to them and say that. But for you to come out there and accuse him of being a racist, not acceptable. And also you stated that in order for Mr. Winfrey, if he knew he needed to do something about Eric Mays, if he wanted to be council president, well, guess what? He council president again. So we're going to have to see what happens there. If you want to serve your community, go out and serve your community, the ward that you live in. Make sure that those people are happy. Don't keep coming to everybody else and trying to get them to turn against Councilman Mays. I'll say that to Eva also. If you say that you love your area that you live in, go visit Atherton East, go visit the Regencies and see what those people are dying from. You have plenty of people over there that are having miscarriages because of the effects of the water. Have you once walked through there? Have you once visited there? Do you go out there on a regular basis? You say you do, but I haven't heard that you have. People I know haven't seen you out there. You know, both of you all have been coercing folks or whatever it is that you're doing to try to coerce your colleagues up here to go in favor of you. Yeah, I'm going to say it. You should stop that. You really should stop all that crap. And I'll say this is how I feel. I'm not saying it on behalf of anybody else, but Kate, you and Eva, I feel like you are to Eric Mays, Mayor Weaver, as Paul Ryan was to President Obama. You go against everything that they try to put into action. Everything. I'm saying it to you, so I can stare right back at you, so I'm gonna let you know that. That's me. So just know that when you start to making the racist comments or try to accuse somebody else up here of being a racist, take a step back, look in the mirror, because you're showing us what real racism look like. Thank you.
Madam Clerk, our next speaker.
Our next speaker is Mr. R.L. Mitchell. Mr. Mitchell.
Mr. Mitchell.
Good evening, Council. I'm Mr. R.L. Mitchell. I live at 759 East Linden Avenue, in front of the graveyard on Grace Graveyard. Well, anyway, to you, Mr. President, to Ms. Fields. The other day, Ms. Fields, you declared this is the year of the woman. After you announced that, you had a situation in here about you. Then the next day, you put on a special broadcast about Mays in the meeting, talking about your Mr. Mays. Anyway, I want you to know I had a whole lot of my neighborhood asking me what I'm on. I feel like Mr. Mays, because they act like, what you gonna do now, sir, Mr. Mitchell? That Mays is gone by them. We saw the press conference, but I want you to know that it's just because it's unprecedented, but it is president, because our mayor is going to finish this 180567 tonight for 2020, and it's going to be legit after we do this situation here. And about this, and while you and all them lawyers, Mr. Mays was taking care of business and back to the city council secretary. This not her, the other one, the one with the yellow hair. Mr. Mays asked me to get a chair for the lawyers, and she come in, almost snatched it out of my hand. She said, "This is not your job, sir." But if she could, I guess because your remarks, the woman of the year of the woman, and talking about, Ms. Fields, you know good and well, they got that smile on your face like you. Hey, Ms. Fields, I ain't saying nothing else about you because I can't deal with you smiling like, okay, I'll keep coming back.
Madam Clerk, our next speaker.
Our next speaker is Mr. Jeffrey Shelley. Mr. Shelley.
Mr. Shelley.
I'm Jeff Shelley. I'm a resident of Flint. You can see me in every ward, and I'm proud to be a Flinton. And I want to congratulate you for your newly appointed job as president, Mr. Winfrey.
Thank you.
And Mrs. Galloway. I think you both do an excellent job. And I want to thank you for talking one-on-one to the people you're going to appoint to the chairs before you appoint them. And I suggest that your constituents talk to you before you appoint them too, and listen to us too. Thank you. That's all I got to say.
Thank you, sir. Madam Clerk.
Our next speaker is Mr. Arthur Woodson.
Mr. Woodson.
How you doing? Let me start off by saying thank you, President Winfrey and Councilman Mays, for acknowledging the veterans. We never forget. That's a statement that we make. We leave no man behind. Saying that, Ms. Willer, I came to you about the Veteran Preference Act that the city of Flint does not carry out and does not have on the application, which can result in a lawsuit from the veteran because we get preference points. And if we take a test and I score 90 and you score 90, I get extra points. How many veterans do we have working for the city of Flint? We don't know because they do not have it on the application. If you get sued, you have to rehire everybody in the administration. I have given them 2 months. I went to them personally and told them about this. So I gave them the opportunity to correct the issue here. It's not just this administration, let me say that. It was before this administration that did not do it, and it was brought to my attention, and I brought it to Ms. Willer's attention. So let me make that point perfectly clear. It wasn't this administration that did not do it. It was a previous administration that did not adhere to it either. Now, let's speak about what's going on with City Council, because I congratulated y'all the last time when I saw that everything was great. Ms. Winfrey Carter, Mr. Mays, hey, right is right, wrong is wrong, and I scream it out. Ms. Fields, I came to her and told her sarcasm provokes people also. Ms. Worthing, me and Ms. Worthing had a conversation. What y'all need is diversity classes, because when I said to Ms. Worthing 5-0, she didn't even know what I was talking about. You know what I'm saying? In our neighborhood, we know what 5-0 means. She doesn't. When Ms. Fields said crap to you, Mr. Davis, she didn't see it as an insult, but we did. It's diversity classes. You know what I'm saying? Don't nobody really understand. Now, Ms. Winfrey Carter had an issue with Mr. Mays. Ms. Galloway, she sits back and say he's a bully, he's threatening. Mr. Davis had an issue with Mr. Mays. Everybody, I mean, y'all done had issues, but when you bring out the points, Mr. Gurr, I mean, when you bring out the points, you only point at Ms. Fields and Ms. Worthing. Like they say, if you empower the oppressor, is the person superior. It's an all black, Mr. May said all the time, all black city council, black mayor. So don't we think that the white people are the inferiors now and they can scream out racism? I mean, I'm just saying. Because when Scott Kincaid said we're going to teach Mayor Weaver as a child or a kid, y'all remember that? They came and held press conferences in her defense. I see that it's you know, overly towards the women on this council. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Woodson. Madam Clerk.
Our next speaker is Ms. Gina Luster. Ms. Luster.
Ms. Luster. Mm-hmm.
I want to congratulate Mr. Winfrey.
Thank you.
I want to congratulate Ms. Galloway. I was hoping that it stayed the same. I think that people should get a fair chance to show what they can do and not be ridiculed. I want to talk a little about race because that's my day job as an organizer and an activist. And what I've been seeing It's textbook racism. You got to remember, when you point your finger at someone, you got 4 pointing back at you. And sometimes you got to step back and check yourself. And if it's not meant to be racist, there's some other issues that you as a person need to work on, because personal feelings shouldn't stop a city from flowing. And that's what's been going on here. We can't move forward. We've got things on the agenda that have been on there since I first started coming to council meetings, because it keeps getting postponed and not taken care of. And I'm gonna be honest, I stopped coming to the meetings because of the nonsense. I couldn't take it anymore. I'm sacrificing my daughter not being at home sleep to come and watch someone tell a black man who has helped every race that I know of in this city that he's the most racist person she's ever met. Well, you must have haven't met a lot of people. Because I know for a fact this man, I called him. There was a Caucasian guy who had been sleeping out on the streets when I was out feeding the homeless. That man let that guy stay with him because I said it's too cold. There's some other folks even in this room that don't look like me that has slept in Eric Mays' house. There's some folks in this room who don't look like me who have called Eric Mays when they had their backs up against the wall. And I guarantee you he didn't tell them no, he helped them. We all have flaws. I have mine. All 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 people in front of me have flaws. But it's how you address them. And it's about how you talk to people and treat people, especially people that have already been beat down on for 500 plus years. You gotta kind of be careful how you address them folk. I can't go into a Jewish synagogue and just say whatever I want to say. That's disrespectful, and I would be looked at as prejudiced because I cannot be racist, because I don't own nothing. I ain't got no power. So I agree, we need some diversity courses. We need some outsiders to come in and explain to some of you folk what is acceptable and not acceptable. Like Arthur Woodson said, if you don't know what 5.0 is, how can you represent me?
Thank you, Ms. Luster. Madam Clerk, our next speaker.
Our next speaker is Mr. Richard Jones. Mr. Jones? Mr. Richard Jones.
How everybody doing today? First of all, I want to congratulate y'all on being re-elected.
Thank you.
And second of all, I want to say that I wish y'all didn't have to have this election. I really feel that y'all should have at least 2 years once y'all do this. Y'all shouldn't have to do this every year. But I'm glad that y'all are still in place because y'all have started something that y'all need to continue. So I'm glad of that. Also, I just want to speak a couple seconds about Mr. Mays. He is not a racist. I have been dealing with Eric ever since the 80s. And like Gina said, he has helped all races out. And I be hanging with him and his phone ring from people in y'all wards. People in y'all wards are calling Mr. Mays, asking him questions that they should be calling and asking y'all for, and they're receiving answers. And sometimes they're calling y'all, not getting an answer. If y'all do answer the phone, y'all not giving them an answer, and then they're calling him anyway. So I just feel he's doing a good job. I believe his, that's just, his behavior is just a behavior. And he's working on it. We all need to work on our behavior and our attitudes. I don't think nobody is perfect, but calling this man a racist and everything, that's just not right. And y'all just continue. I see, like I said, like they've been said before, it's been a lot of stuff that was passed on to y'all from the last one, and y'all seem to be working and solving some issues. And this financial, this investigation that y'all got going, it's about time. And y'all doing something that many people should have did a long time ago. It should have been 4 years. These people should have already been up. We should be on Snyder by now. But I'm proud that y'all at least getting it started and continue to work, and congratulations once again.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Madam Clerk, our next speaker.
Our next speaker is Mr. Quincy Murphy. Mr. Murphy.
Good evening. First, I want to say congratulations to you, Herb, and congratulations to Monica for
Thank you.
y'all re-elected position. I had the privilege of coming to the council meeting since you guys been elected and coming to the committee meetings. And I sit up here and I listen to all the different speakers speak on this race issue. Herb, I knew this was going to happen. And then this is the unfortunate part is that you got people coming up here with their biased opinion on one person versus another. I don't agree with how Eva Worthy now and Kay Fields now and Monica Galloway has been talked to. They was elected just like everybody else was elected. And just because you don't agree with them don't mean you have to talk to them in a different tone of voice. And as a man that, I'm protective of my mother. When it come down to my mother, you can't talk to my mom any kind of way. You can't talk to my sister any kind of way. You can't talk to my granny, my cousin, when it come down to women in my family, because I'm a man. And I don't want men talking to my mother, my sister, my wife, or whoever it is, any kind of way, because your tone of voice and your delivery is how you think it's okay. I just don't think that this coming up here pointing blame on one person versus the other person is solving anything for the city of Flint. Because white people, black people, Mexican people, all kind of race of people either voted for y'all or either voted for the mayor. And when y'all come up here and y'all call a race card, then y'all is not doing nothing but sending that energy back out in the community. And then now y'all finna create something that it may take us 10 to 20 years. And I'm sure it's out there. But I'm saying, come to the committee meetings and watch and see how the committee meetings, instead of come down here once a year to the council meeting, because y'all want somebody to either be the president or the vice president or the finance chair or the government ops chair. Come and sit in those meetings and sit down here like we do to 9 o'clock, and we got other lives, and sit and see how long those meetings go. Then you come up here and talk about race. Because right now what I see is a big divide that's about to take place in the uproar and a much more racial, and I don't think it should be that bad. We should not be that. We should have love for one another. And to sit here and come down here and hit this podium and start calling a race card and start calling a blame card, that is not going to help. So when you have your one-on-ones with your colleagues before you make those appointments, take that in consideration. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Murphy. Madam Clerk, our next speaker.
Our next speaker is Mr. Chester Coburn. Mr. Chester Coburn.
Belly for y'all. My. Good to be here this afternoon. My name is Chester Coburn. I understand the relationships and all that, but everybody have their own opinion. Every man and every woman have their own opinion. But Brother Mays, I'm your brother, always will be your brother. When you're in this house here, you're in this house representing everybody out here. And all you brothers and all you ladies out here, y'all in here represent everybody in this city. It's time out y'all start focusing not on yourself, but focus on the people that put you in the position you're in. Because what you're showing us, you're letting things get through and not paying attention. It's time for y'all to bring things to the table. I was speaking to young man earlier about it's the mayor's job to do this. It's our job, other jobs, other people's, other councils to help the mayor out, bring ideas to the table. Well, all that waste energy that y'all use amongst each other, that's what y'all should put it into. To help the peoples of this city, quit crippling this city. You know, you study tearing down houses in the city, getting proven for these budget grants to do very different things. Take them budget grants and use other things to rebuild houses, put city back instead of costing prices for us to eat and suffer, to move out of the city, can't pay the property, can't pay your water bills. because we're tearing everything around. That's what we need to come back into. Focus how to feed each other instead of being departed. When y'all up here fusing among each other, you're hurting the peoples in this city. Not yourself, but the peoples. And we put y'all in a position, look out for us. But right now, y'all saying, we don't care. Peoples are tired. And people finna come forward and let y'all know we want y'all to bring the ideals to the city, to feed the north end of the city, not uptown development, but the north end of the city. Flint need to eat also. Because they are suffering out there. All these vacant houses, tearing houses, they study tearing down. When are we going to start telling them, hey, we got to stop doing this, building things back so we can have the north end of town? When is you people's going to say, hey, let's get some developments together so we can build something back in the city of Flint on the north end of town? They got to eat too. Not just in the up from Hamilton up downtown to 12th Street. They're not the only one need to eat. We need to eat also. You guys need to work with the mayor, come with ideas to build city up, bring business back here, to build the north end of town, put resident homes back in the north end of town. The property tax won't cost me, won't cost the other people's property tax. Water bills will get divided. We're losing legal of water, wastewater, because we got to take this water and don't have enough people to support the water bills again here. And we getting stuck with these high water bills because we let them tear everything down. When are we going to stop that and say, people, let's eat together? What is y'all going to do from this day forward? Yesterday was done. Y'all can't do about the mistakes you made yesterday, but what is y'all going to do about today? That racism, that went out the door 50 years ago. If you allow it to come back in the door, we're going to keep eating like we eat now. Put yesterday behind us, let's move forward. This victimness ain't going nowhere, but these people's got to eat. So help us.
Thank you, Mr. Colburn. Madam Clerk, our next speaker.
Our next speaker is Mr. John Billings.
Mr. Billings.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
John Billings. First of all, I'd like for each and every one of y'all to respect this job like it's some of y'all first jobs y'all got. What I mean by that, now, when I walked in here this evening, y'all had a meeting, but it did look a little bit racist to me because there wasn't nobody in here but African Americans. Then for the second part of the meeting, I guess all the council shows up as a whole. But in time of voting for members, I think all of y'all should be together and vote. Let the public see y'all vote. And y'all get paid for this job, believe it or not. You do get paid by our money. We voted for y'all to represent us, not per se. If y'all got something scheduled to be somewhere, and y'all got a meeting here, y'all should treat us with the same respect y'all do that other job. Y'all gonna be at that other job first because this is y'all secondary, or y'all just play money, I guess. But we voted y'all. If y'all can't be here on time or be at the meetings, why don't y'all give it up to people who can be here and who might benefit more for it? As far as the racism, we voted Eric in the first ward. We like what Eric doing in the first ward because we believe he's the hardest working councilman we got. Okay? So whether you put him out, we'll re-elect and put him back in. So y'all might well get used to him. And as far as racism, I won't call your name, but when I was little growing up, there was a part of town we all know by, and I don't know if it was the motorcycle club or that whole area, but I spent quite a bit of racism over there coming up. That was on the corner of Broadway and Lewis, right up on the viaduct. So if you represent that ward, that might help, might need to talk to some of them people and get that out of there, even though it has got a little bit better. But still, the #1 area, I feel, for that. So I said that to say this. All y'all need to get along up here. If you know where everybody's trigger point, don't trigger them points. Just get along up here and do y'all job and be on time and give the people of Flint what they need, respect.
Thank you, Mr. Billy. Madam Clerk, our next speaker.
Our next speaker is Ms. Linda Poley.
Ms. Linda Poley.
Good evening, Council. I have
Good evening.
several comments to make tonight. The first has to do with the upcoming request for funding for the Ethics and Accountability Board. I understand there are differences of opinion. I would expect that when you're trying to implement a charter for the first time in many, many years. What I'm asking all of you to do is to give appropriate and respectful consideration to their request and operate in a spirit of good fellowship and goodwill so that we can get past this, get that board organized, get ourselves an office of the ombudsman as is contemplated by the charter. Second thing I would like to talk about is the recent Flint Journal article about the excavations in the city, which was amplified last week when Mr. Wong testified under oath that the city had directed that the workmen work in all wards. Now, all wards of this city are not equal. Some have got a lot more lead than others. 5th Ward, 8th Ward are very heavily contaminated. There are areas of this city that are not so heavily contaminated, and yet somehow we looked for lead in areas where there was primarily copper pipe, and we did not look for lead in areas where we now know there is primarily lead pipe. Pardon me, the concept of triage is well understood in a medical setting. If you go to the emergency room because you have a broken arm and you want it x-rayed, you expect to wait for the doctors to treat first the person who is hemorrhaging from an automobile accident. So my request to this council, regardless of how this happened, regardless of how we got here, I'm requesting this council to unanimously adopt a resolution that from now on, we're going to pay attention to scientific models and we're going to dig for lead where the lead is. On the rest of the subjects that have been under discussion for tonight, I would like to say that I like Kate Fields and Eva Worthing. They've been kind to me. I enjoy their company. I find them to be good people. I have no further comments except, since I have a little time, I'd like to read from you for our charter, Section 3104. As representatives of the citizens of the City of Flint, City Council members are expected to conduct themselves with appropriate decorum, act respectfully with their constituents, each other, and other public servants, attend to the duties of their office as outlined in this charter, become knowledgeable on the City of Flint Charter, on issues of importance to the City of Flint, and the practices of city government. Thank you for your indulgence in letting me go over. Good evening.
Thank you, Ms. Porter. Madam Clerk, our next speaker.
Our next speaker is Mr. Miles Siglin. Miles Siglin.
Hi, my name's Miles Siglin, and this is the first time I'm here. I want to congratulate both of you for getting your presidency and vice presidency, and I want to thank the vets for being here today and being of service to our country. Thank you. I appreciate all of you. I've only watched the council meetings from home, and like last week's, I was kind of the problem with the finance, them wanting the finance, just see the finance. Sorry, I've suffered a stroke, so words aren't properly, but they wanted to see the finance records. And stuff like that when it happens. Or when Eric's been giving the ladies the floor, like back in April, I remember specifically there was the three ladies. There was a big bickering session. You did not stop it. As president, you didn't speak up. You did not say one word while it was going on between the three ladies getting up to leave. There was a lack of communication. It's in an hour and 26, 27, 28 minutes into the meeting. It's lack of communication. It's embarrassing. I come from the West Coast. I've lived in Compton and Watts, okay? Worse neighborhoods, worse police departments, worse shootings, you know, than here. And I've gone to those council meetings. I've lived in Anaheim, California, Los Angeles. There's better communication in those city council meetings, and there's worse race problems there, okay? Worse, I mean, Asians, gangs, Mexican gangs, the Bloods and the Crips are there. I'm telling you, real gangs there. Every day, people are being shot on the street. Little kids like we've had lately being shot. But every day, not just once in a while. And I'm telling you, this is the truth. I was born and raised in California. And I don't want to see that here. But you guys have to come together and communicate as adults, for Christ's sake. Please, I beg you guys. You guys are adults. You have to do it for the children of this city. Just like the lead's got to get out of this water. It'll hurt their brains. It'll hurt its chemistry in their brains. I beg you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Sigler. Madam Clerk, our next speaker.
Our last speaker is Mr. James Culver. I can't decipher the last name.
Jim, it's Quarter.
Quarter on Circle Drive. Is that? Okay.
You want to talk?
If you don't mind spelling your last name when you get up. He doesn't want to talk. Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. President.
This is the time where we respond for 2 minutes to the speakers. Davina, when we start, give us our 2 minutes there as we keep
Mr. President,
Councilman Mays.
in light of the speakers and the subject matter, I move that we suspend the rules in order to address this properly, not 2 minutes. You can't do it in 2 minutes. They do it in 3, and there's many of them. So I move that we suspend the rules to address this properly.
There's a motion on the floor to suspend the rules to address the speakers. Is there support for that motion? Councilman Davis?
Mr. President, I second.
It's been moved and properly second. Is there any discussion on the motion?
Mr. President.
Councilman?
Yeah, Mr. President, even the body of this discussion, you got council people making allegations that they don't have enough time to speak and talk. This subject matter came out in a press conference from 2 council members and has spread across this community. It's a very important subject matter, so I'll be voting to suspend the rules so we can address this properly. 2 minutes just can't do it. But I'll see how the members vote who say their voice has been muffled. I'm urging council to vote unanimously to demonstrate a proper, cordial conversation about these racial allegations. And so I'll be supporting the motion to suspend the rules, and then we go back to regular. Time frames won't get it. 2 minutes won't get it.
Councilman Davis?
Yeah, in the discussion, Councilman May is absolutely correct. This is crucially important to put this puppy to sleep because we done spent, this is 1 year anniversary of this body today. And if we don't deal with it, ain't no need of doing another year. It's enough is enough. And parliamentary rules is not funny to me at all because I hate wasting time. I'm sure the community, as the constituents just stated, we owe them better than what we've been giving them. So I think it only makes sense for us to just suspend the rules and just deal with it. Thank you.
Okay. Any other discussion? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, roll call. This is on suspending the rules.
Ms. Fields? No. Ms. Winfrey Carter?
Yes.
Mr. Winfrey?
Yes.
Ms. Galloway?
No.
Mr. Griggs?
No.
Ms. Worthing?
No.
Mr. Mays?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Mr. Guerra?
No.
The vote is 4 yes, 5 no. Motion fails.
Okay. Davina, 2 minutes. Who would like to speak first?
Mr. President,
Councilman Mays.
if they want to make allegations in a press conference for longer than 2 minutes in front of cameras and then get shy or want to wait to hear and see what I say so they can try to better or one-up me, I don't need that. I'll make the comment. I'm appalled that people will go on TV calling me a racist. Why? What's the definition? What is they basing this on? Is it based upon me saying that my ward is 90-some% black? Is it based upon me saying that the 3 white folks got the worst attendance record? They wasn't here earlier. Is it based upon me saying that it's a cultural difference? Every time we vote, I see the vote. 3 of them. They get up and leave together. They talk together. But when you hit me with racism, that's the big hit. This has been going on for a year. Miss Fields called me the most racist person, not just now, but a year ago. Mr. Griggs called the mayor racist. And so people who don't know our rules say no personal attacks. So how can people come to the mic and say how you talk to women and women talking to us like we ignorant? I believe in equal opportunity talk treatment. Talk to others as you'd have them talk unto you. We done took the high road. We haven't publicly called them racist yet. I haven't. I say I know they are Eric Macy's. That's a high road. Now you got a big to-do all on Facebook because they stood bold, called the press conference, say he a racist. No, I'm a no messy sissis. I don't like mess. Miss Fields, we can't speak. You got to be here. 2 minutes, they don't want you to hear it, they don't want to discuss it, and they called it and didn't want to speak first.
Councilman
I'll
Hayes.
address it again at the end of the agenda. Thank you.
Any other council choose to address the public speakers?
You want to just go around?
Councilman Davis.
Thank you, Mr. President. Let me just say this, the best way I know how to say it. Racism, you can't hide. Ever since Flint was built, racism is a part. Look at downtown, look at Northtown. Blacktown, I call it. When we gonna call an elephant an elephant? It's a certain group up here, they laugh at people. Mr. Mays be chairing a meeting. I'm sitting across seeing the mannerism. That's a form of racism. The laughing, the gestures back and forth, and even the ones that's trying to get certain offices, the attendance records is not stable. If you can't handle a seat, don't put the constituent, and especially for the ones that have black folks in their wards. You can't speak for black folks if you're not here to represent black folks. And wait a minute, because see, they don't know. It's very sickening to waste time. I have, as Councilman May, he had 1 absent or 2. I have 0. Because when I dedicate myself, I'm dedicated. But when you have a concern of certain population, and it's obvious of your decisions and your respect, because I have to respect everyone in the city of Flint. So shall the ones that been elected by other people. I don't do color. But Mr. Mays, they know how to push them buttons because certain council members been here a long time with Mr. Mays. They know how to make you mad and make you glad. We all know that. It's time out for being fooled or bamboozled by folks playing games. Mr. Mays trying to do a form of checking the money from the state to the city. He's doing an excellent job. It's political. They need to stop him because he's looking too good and making the administration look good. So they got to do whatever they can to stumble us, and I am done.
Mr. Guerra.
Yeah, so clearly we do have a lot of tension on this council. So what I'd like to say, though, is that I hope with this election and going forward and on the year that we continue to get better and improve on these relationships, because when we continually argue, and I have seen both sides of these arguments. I've seen the rights and the wrongs. I have seen us bashed publicly for one thing and others. I've seen all the stuff on social media. I've seen all the things that everybody has said out here. I've heard stuff on the radio. And I think it's time for us as a council to come together in unity, because we're not represented by race. We're represented to elect the people in our districts. We're elected to represent the people in our city. You know, we all drive on the same roads. We pay the same taxes, and we deal with a lot of the same problems. We need to start focusing on these issues and put the issues that we have on the council to rest and start focusing on the issues for the city.
Councilwoman Fields.
I'd like to say that I agree with Mr. Guerra. You know, I think that a lot of people who come up here and speak, some are clearly well-informed and some are misinformed or not well-informed. I would like to say, don't rely on somebody telling you what is going on with these meetings. It's like Mr. Murphy said, come to the meetings and hear and see for yourself. Don't have someone tell you what somebody else said on Facebook. If you can't come here, then watch the videos, and you'll find out the truth of the matter, because there's a lot of revisionist history that occurs among some council people. And I think at some point we do need to deal with race. But most importantly, what I'd like to deal with are the issues facing all of the residents of the city. This issue with, you know, is the state going to allow us to be reimbursed for the work we're doing? Are we concentrating on removing the lead lines where the lead lines are? Those aren't race issues, but some council people use that as a red herring. They want to divert your attention with race. You know, it's pretty much like, and whether you're a Trump supporter or not, it's like Donald Trump. You know, create chaos, create a red herring, and do it by appealing to people's basest instincts. Appeal to their fear of one another. And, you know, that's not what we should be doing here. We should be talking about the issues. And I'd just like to say on my own behalf, the reason a press conference was called was because there was a hearing, a meeting, and the chair, who was Mr. Mays, would not allow me to talk. Now, if you want to know the truth of that, watch the video and ask yourself, what would Mr. Mays have done if someone had chaired a meeting and treated him like that? So, anyway, see for yourselves. Don't just rely on what somebody's telling you what the reality is. You figure out the reality for yourself. And let's deal with the issues that affect you, the residents.
What's your point? Councilwoman Winfrey Carter.
Thank you, Mr. President. First, I would like to thank the veterans for your service. Secondly, I would like to congratulate Councilman Winfrey and Councilwoman Galloway for your leadership positions. Yes, our council, I am hoping that we can get past our differences and work together. Yes, we do have some racial issues going on our council, but we also have personality clashes. And when we can get past those personality clashes, and like my colleague said, and the elephant in the room, the racism, I think we can move forward. but I'm going to appeal to my colleagues. Let's just stop and let's just come together and take care of the business of this city, because we were all elected, okay? We were all elected to sit around the table, and we were all elected to be treated respectfully. And that's the main thing, respect. We got to learn to respect each other. And we got to stop and take care of the business of this city. I'm done.
Vice President Galloway.
Thank you. I wanted to say to the gentleman that talked about the meeting and when we were trying to set a date, I don't know if the public knows that this council, according to charter, is responsible for 4 evening meetings, and generally they accommodate someone that works. And it's important to know that when you come to a meeting today and you've had something on your calendar for 3 or 4 months, I would hope that this community would respect that something was done and you can't always maneuver around a meeting that's being rescheduled or scheduled for the first time in 10 days. So I just wanted to address that piece of it. As far as, I don't want to say, I'm Councilwoman Galloway and I'm a black female and I'm not experiencing racism. My concern isn't racism. Racism is real. I didn't support changing our rules to accommodate time because in a workplace environment, I have a human resource department that I can go to. There is a hierarchy of people I can go to express my concerns that are educated in how to help you coordinate through that. They mediate between you. I just don't think that as much as we respect each other, if we have biases or issues or you push a button, I just don't think that this council is equipped to deal with that, and it shouldn't have a place in doing city business. If we can just set all that aside and really get to the heart of doing service for this community and giving each other the freedom to express themselves and not try to articulate what they're saying because we can't speak for them, I think that we will be well on our way. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Councilman Griggs.
I believe you all know that I stick to facts. I'm not always wanting to go beyond 2 minutes. Last week in committee, council committee, it was confirmed we have no deaths due to lead in the water. There are no rashes due to the Flint water. There were 12 Legionella deaths between 2005 and 2015. We don't have the records up to present. Plus, we do not have a backup water supply. KWA is not a backup source. It's a redundant source. And as far as me calling the mayor a racist, she knows why I did it. So does Aoni Gilchrist knows why I said it. And they understand. Done.
Councilwoman Worthing.
Good evening. I would have to agree with Ms. Galloway that it is not a racial problem. I actually do not believe that Mr. Mays thinks I'm a racist. I think it fits an agenda to keep us divided. And I would hope that as the people in the city of Flint that we would not take that bait, that we would make decisions based on our feelings on an issue and not a feeling of that people are creating. So please, I implore you, just like my colleague did, please watch the meetings. Do not go on what someone has told you. I had no idea when I first came to the city council the racial tensions in the city at all. It was actually a really surprise to me.
Excuse me, just a second, man. Excuse me, in the audience, I read a subsection to you. Now, I need it quiet. The councilwoman is speaking. Whenever the public speak, we allow you to speak without us interfering. I'd like to set that same courtesy extended to the speaker here, to the councilwoman. Continue, please.
And that's because I never operated based on race. I am appalled at our president, who is a misogynist and a racist. He has claimed to be a nationalist. Those things are hurtful for our nation, and I believe that these racial tensions here are hurtful for our city. We are not going to move on if we continue to operate in this manner. To Ms. Poley, I absolutely agree with you that the Ethics and Accountability Board needs their money and that we definitely need to work on that. Another issue that's really important is the finances as it pertains to hydro-excavating and digging up lead lines, or in this case, this year, it's been copper lines. We must get it together. Anything else is a distraction. We must know where our money is going, if we're going to go bankrupt or not, because we're using money that the state is not going to pay for. That is what is important to me and to my residents. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you to all of my colleagues. And thank you to all of our speakers. And let me say this, and I've said this to my colleagues, and I continue to say it, and will continue to set an example of what I believe a council person should be to his or her colleagues. I believe that it is our responsibility as individual council people to create an environment that is safe for everybody up here to say whatever they feel that is in the best interest of them getting their answers, their questions answered, or getting clarity, or even speaking to each other. I believe that we should respect each other. There have been people in the community that have asked me, do I believe that certain council members on this council are racist? And I can't kowtow to what folks want me to say. I'm going to say what I feel and what I believe to be true. I don't believe that we have, out of all the 9 council people on here, I don't believe not one of us are racist. That's my belief. And that's because of my interactions. I know what a racist is. So again, thank you for your comments, and to my colleagues, we've heard our citizens say that they would not like for us to spend time slamming one another, pointing fingers at one another, but it's okay to disagree. In fact, I listen to folks who disagree with me a little bit more than I do to people who agree, because it gives me an opportunity to find out something new. Now, you might not have to, in fact, you don't have to operate like Winfrey. I would encourage you not to. But when it comes to these elected positions that we have, I believe that we should serve the public better, and we should be an example to those young folks out there and to our communities. I would love to see classes here, let me just wrap this up, and those teachers saying, let's go down and let's see what our local government, how it operates.
Point of order,
Mr.
President.
I'm done, Councilman.
You know what I was going to say.
I know what you were going to say.
I don't discriminate.
Mr.
All right.
President.
Councilwoman Galloway.
I'll wait, I'm sorry.
Okay. Madam Clerk, are there any petitions and unofficial communications?
Not at this time.
Communications from the mayor, there's 180573. I urge my colleagues to read that. Are there any additional communications?
No.
And what is the council's pleasure on the appointment 180566?
Mr. President.
Councilwoman Galloway.
I move for approval of 180566, reappointment to the Flint Housing Commission Board of Commissioners, Father Philip
Schmitter.
Schmitter.
Is there
President, I support.
Councilman Griggs?
I support.
It's been moved and supported. Is there any discussion?
Yeah, Mr. President.
Councilman Mays.
Through you to the administration, Mr. Branch, have we got any other housing commission appointments coming up? Maybe you can let me know at some point. I've got people who had requested it. They say they had gave a resume. I say, I don't know. I will support this resolution to approve Father Philip Smitter. He's over there at Christ the King's Church, Christ the King Church. He do a good job in the community. And so this is a reappointment for Father Smitter, and this is for a 5-year term, the Flint Housing Commission. Mr. Branch, when you get a chance, let me know if anything is moving on the pipe. I'll be supporting the mayor's recommendation for Father Smitter. Thank you.
Mr. President.
Is there Councilwoman Galloway?
Thank you. And to the administration, I was just wondering, is this an appointment that requires residency in the city of Flint? Because I noticed that the address that's being used appears to be Christ the King's Church address. And so I would like to make sure that, okay, perfect. Perfect, that black and white house? Okay, perfect, thank you.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, Madam Clerk.
Ms. Winfrey Carter?
Yes.
Mr. Winfrey?
Yes.
Mrs. Galloway?
Yes.
Mr. Griggs?
Yes.
Ms. Worthing?
Yes.
Mr. Mays is gone. Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Mr. Dura?
Yes.
Ms. Fields? Okay, the vote is 7 yes, 0 no on 180566.
Okay.
Mr.
Brings-
President,
Councilwoman Galloway.
I move for the master resolution with add-on number 1.
Mr. President,
Councilman,
I second that motion.
it's been moved and properly second. Is there any discussion?
Mr. President.
Councilman Mays?
Yeah, so this is moving the master resolution, which includes add-on number 1.
Yes.
And add-on number 1 is the
Resolution.
Middleton versus Flint District Court case that we talked about in executive session.
Absolutely.
And then the other resolutions, we got a landscaping contract. Let me look at this right quick. I want to separate, or maybe I won't, but the multi-year Boyd's lawn and landscaping, that's what, snow removal?
Right.
Was that snow removal,
It was
Mr. Brandt?
It was snow removal.
So we trying to get the snow removal contract in place. And so that's what that one was. I see y'all back there, Mr. Newsom, Wade Trim, design water main replacement, settlement Willis Snyder. Okay, I don't know that Wade Trim, that's a change order. Can somebody give me a little info on that? What's that for 900,000, not to exceed 900,000? What's the change order? Can anybody hit me to that, Mr. Newsom? That would be 180563. If y'all hit me to what's happening with this change order, maybe I won't separate nothing. Now, if we need more time, I'll vote on the master and separate. Mr. President, may.
Yes. Mr. Branch, proceed.
Yes. That change order is to add the addition of the water main replacement engineering that will go under that street, which was not part of the street original engineering design. So they have to do the design for the water main replacements.
What is the change? Is the change
$315,000.
$315,597? That's the change order.
That's the change.
And then it won't exceed 900,000, almost $1 million. And the change order is change order number 1 for Wade Trim. And this is design. Is this any other money coming from the state?
This is part of the state's Tiger grant, I believe.
Yeah, because we didn't do capital improvement.
Right.
So y'all done budgeted this money from state money, and so it's not general fund or capital improvement. It ain't state money. Mr. Newsom said it is state money.
Right. Well, it's part of the Tiger grant. It's federal money.
Is it state money or federal money? Okay, but it's not capital improvement or general fund. So, Mr. Branch, you were right. You had the idea. It's federal or state money versus our money.
Correct.
And y'all got a budget. Now he do the 2 thumbs up, Steve. Okay, so we stand corrected. Thank you, Mr. Newsom. I'll support it and won't separate it. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Any other discussions on the master resolution? Hearing none, Madam Clerk.
Mr. Winfrey?
Yes.
Ms. Galloway?
Yes.
Mr. Griggs?
Yes.
Mr. Worthing is absent. Mr. Mays?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Mr. Guerra?
No.
See, Ms. Fields is absent. Ms. Winfrey Carter?
Yes.
On the whole, Master, you had a separation.
The vote is
You want to
7 yes,
reconsider?
1 no.
Okay. Madam Clerk, introduction and first reading of ordinances.
Point of
I'm
information.
sorry.
Yeah, the count was, yeah.
I counted wrong. It's 6 yes and 1 no.
Thank you.
Okay. Madam Clerk, introduction of first reading of ordinances 180567.
Yes, this is an amendment to ordinance chapter 18, taxation, funds purchasing, article 1, section 18-4.1, service charges in lieu of taxes for housing facilities for certain persons.
Okay.
It's the first reading. You would move it for
Mr. President.
Okay. So then, Councilman Mays?
Yeah, Mr. President, I would move 180567, the amendment ordinance chapter 18, taxation funds purchase in article 1 and general section 18-4.1, service charge in lieu of taxes for housing facilities for certain persons for first reading.
Okay. Is there support for that motion? Councilman Davis?
Mr. President, I second.
It's been moved and properly second. Is there any discussion on the motion?
Mr. President.
Councilman Mays?
I see Suzanne Wilcox and Janice out there. I guess they watching it. But I know at one point seemed like it was some tidbits being dealt with on the ordinance, and I don't know if it went back to legal or what. If everybody is indicating it's ready to go, I'll support it for first reading. If some ain't right and we have to start back over, if we catch it between first and second reading, so be it. But I'm going to urge legal, Suzanne, and everybody to dot their I's and cross their T's between now and second reading. So for first reading, I'll be supporting it. But I really want to update on it in legislative, if I may.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, Madam Clerk.
Ms. Galloway?
Yes for first reading.
Mr. Griggs?
Yes.
Mr. Worthing?
Yes.
Mr. Mays?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Mr. Guerra?
Yes.
Ms. Winfrey Carter?
Yes.
Mr. Winfrey?
Yes.
The vote is 8 yes, 0 no, on 180567.
Okay. And then, thank you, Madam Clerk. Is there any second reading and adoption of ordinances?
No.
So this brings us to additional council discussion.
Mr. President.
Final comments.
No, we were asked to, were asked if there were any
Happy third anniversary.
Any requests for changes. We are at additional council discussion.
Mr. President.
Councilman Mays, go right ahead.
Yeah, Mr. President, I added this additional council discussion for the reason that I thought, didn't know the specific of what was happening, but a full-fledged press conference, accusation of racism, sexism, Worthing standing with Ms. Fields on Thursday before the election. Now after the election, she don't believe I'm racist, I heard her say. I don't stand with folks that say that I'm racist on one day and then come back the next day and they done figured out you ain't. That's politics. Why stand with Kate Fields? Why not decline it or say it when Kate Fields said it and y'all were doing a joint thing? Sometimes we say guilty by association. I think it's outrageous of these hardline allegations. And then I'm listening to Mr. Murphy. I respect women too, my mom, others, but I come from a different school. Woman done fought for voting rights and equal treatment. If women can stand and call you racist and talk nasty to you, I think you got to check them. Man or woman, you check them. If people is absent and don't know what's going, it don't surprise me Ms. Fields ain't sitting here now. I believe that Kate Fields, Eva Worthing, and Mr. Griggs talked and chose not to be here consciously for this finance hearing. The one that they say they can't talk in. You got to be here to talk. We started at 4 o'clock. Coincidentally, Caucasian, white, friends, the folks who leave together and come together, there's 3 of them. And they just happen to be the ones who vote together. There has happened to be 2 of them, and even with the 3rd one, they happen to be slanging the racism thing. Griggs say the mayor know why he called her a racist. Heck, I think I know why Kate Fields and even them called me one, because they can. It's very wrong and divisive why you do it. We ain't got to that point yet. We ain't got to that point. Reverend Threl Kell, the East Side, the 4th Ward, when I was the NAACP 3rd Vice, I had to go over there to the only black family because white folks were shooting at them because they were black. This council used to set 3 black, 6 white. I'm telling you, this is outrageous to try to make me look ignorant and stupid. I'm not ignorant and stupid. I'm an educated brother from Michigan State. I will let anybody talk, but you got to be here. What I won't let you do is when we got witnesses sitting here like we had the other day, I'm not going to allow you to give speeches, reach conclusions. That's after we gather evidence. When we set witnesses here, the purpose is to ask particular questions. I know what went on, and I asked Ms. Fields, let them make their opening comments and statements, and then if you have a quick inquiry similar to a point of order or a question, what is it, a point of information, go ahead and interrupt them. I advocate interrupting folks. I'm going to help you as chair. But what I ain't going to let you do, what I witnessed, and she say, go look at the film, go look at it. She called me a bully in the middle of the hearing. That's a personal attack. I say, that's your first warning. You're out of order. And then after she called me a bully and I gave her that warning, go look at the film. She says, look at it. Then she went to arguing because I said, is that a question? You're trying to make statements. So she recommending you look at the film. I recommend you look at those 2 specific things. A personal attack on the film, Ms. Fields' bully. The next day, racist, sexist. She made personal attacks. She's still probably out there perpetrating it rather than in here voting, because she always gone. 35 absences. And then people who come on new, the people who come on new and come to council meeting who want to see a good, perfect, ideal world, their heart is bleeding, my heart is bleeding. Why can't we just have a council meeting and quit attacking folks? That's what we all want, but we ain't the attackers. Okay. So people got to ask the question, we didn't put a time on this.
Yeah, well, Councilman, here's what I want to do. Now, I want us to limit the discussion because we've got final council comments.
Mr. Winfrey, I know, but let them mess with your reputation all across the city. This is important to me. It's important to the function of this council. I don't know who blowing the whistle, the secretary, the staff, Ms. Brown, but let everybody talk. Don't do me like that, not on this subject.
Okay, Councilman Mays, I'm going to give you some additional time.
Beg your pardon, you want me to stop?
Well, no,
now? I mean, I'm not trying to argue with nobody.
No.
I'm just trying to put a special order on the agenda, a change that I requested, and then I wanted to talk about it. I might have been about through, but whatever you're saying, I want to hear it because I don't want to be caught up in no arguments. What you telling me?
What I'm saying is you have 5 minutes. I'm going to give you an additional 2 minutes. And then I'm going to give...
Who put 5 minutes on this?
I did because I want to limit
the
discussion.
secretary put 5 minutes on it?
No,
Why?
I asked her to...
Okay,
see, here we go again. Here we go, Councilman. Here we go. Here's what I want to do. I want to give every person who wants to have additional council discussion 5 minutes. You said you needed more time. I want to give you an additional 2 minutes, and then we'll go with that. Then we come down to final council comments. How many minutes we got for that, Davina? 5 minutes for that. So proceed, Councilman.
Mr. Winfrey, I think when we request council changes and additions, we're at another procedural crossroads. If I requested and it passed, if somebody put minutes on something I request, let me know up front.
Okay,
because
that's
then
fair.
I'll ask this council in a motion what's proper.
That's fair.
And so even if we go 5 minutes apiece and all of them speak 5 minutes and you want to give an additional 2, we might need an additional 5. I just don't like the dictates. And that's what they saying. They saying as a chair, I'm controlling them. And I'm telling you as a First Ward councilman, from Kerry Nelson to Scott Kincaid to Vicky Van Buren to Juan Davis to some here trying to control me. I just want to be free to talk. And I don't want to have to call a press conference outside a council meeting to get 5 minutes. I spent a lot of money getting voted in not to have 2 minutes and 5 minutes. That's why I'm saying we got to change the rules. Who making them up?
Order.
And
Point
it
of order,
seems...
Mr. Chairman.
What's your point?
Are we going to stick with council rules or what?
Councilman, you just heard me say
Well,
that I
it's-
want. Are you going to let me ask you or what?
No, I'd like for you to
Then
say
let me
we're gonna
answer. Let me finish, please.
Well, it's beyond 5 minutes right now.
You asked me a question. Can I answer your question?
Yes, you may.
Thank you. You asked me how long. I said 5 minutes, and I'm giving each council person an additional 2.
Why?
Because I said so. Proceed, Councilman Mays.
Mr. President, you make sure when my 5 minutes up, I pass it to other council people. I asked for this special
Councilman,
thing.
you had 5 minutes. I'm giving you
Okay,
additional
then
2.
I'll be quiet on
Don't
something
say
I'm asked
it.
for.
You got additional 2, so you got how much
That
time
ain't
does
what
he
you
have on the-
said. You said you give everybody 5, and if we needed more, come back for 2. I just want to play the game right, but this is something we got to fix. We got to fix it. And it's artificial. We putting it on ourselves.
Councilman Mays.
We don't have to treat ourselves like
The
this.
buzzer went off because you had 5 minutes. Councilman Davis, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Yes.
On behalf of Councilman Mays, once again, I could concur with the way he feels. When you go publicly and bash somebody's reputation in their community, it don't feel good. Nobody wearing his shoes but him right now. It's easy when it's a team of people, but when you're the lone ranger, it don't feel good. And, you know, I'm not a fair weather friend. We ain't got to never agree, but we should all get along. Right is right, wrong is wrong. He trying to make clear and correct publicly what's been a wrong, clearly a wrong in a attack, personal attack, which this council body adamantly supposed to be against. It's wrong to take one person and do a press conference. If we did a vote to remove him, that would be different as a body. But you don't take 2 or 3 members and attack one member, and they have to defend themselves in front of cameras. That's not right. That's not right. It takes time to get to the place. They have their hidden agendas behind the scene. They get together and act like ain't nothing going on. That's all a lie. We all know that's a lie. It's hidden agendas against administration as well as certain council members. But when you do a personal attack and you got to defend yourself, that's out of order. Now, Mr. President, I'm hoping with all I got on the other side, you make the right choices when you come up with the finance, the legislative and the different chairs, the government, because you should be at these meetings and stand to the end, the entirety of the meeting. And attendance should be a part of it. Mr. Mays faithfully here. He chaired a meeting. You know, people, I said it earlier, it's how you respect people, and well as Councilwoman Carter, she said the same thing. But the respect factor is not there. Just as Mr. Griggs chastised you, the president. It's a respectful way of doing things. That's out of order. That's that pride. Y'all can act like it's not a white privilege if you want to. The way he said to the president of this body with zero respect. It's how you talk to people. But in behalf of Mr. Mays in a rebuttal, it's not right to have to defend yourself when you've been attacked personally over all the media and nobody come to your offense, and I am done.
Any other council person? Councilwoman Fields.
I'd like to discuss the issues that I think are the most priority issues facing this city, and I want the residents to think about this. We need to deal with the issue of why are we spending our precious resources and dollars doing excavations mainly in the areas that are predicted to have copper lines rather than doing it in areas that are predicted to have lead lines. Because my fear is, and by the way, my particular ward, the 4th ward, the majority of it is supposed to have mostly copper lines. So this isn't just a ward issue, this is a citywide issue, and I think City Council has to represent the whole city. And it's pretty clear that the majority of lead lines are to be found in the 5th and 8th and kind of the center of the city, the oldest part of the city. So my question is, why is the administration not ensuring that those are the lines that are being excavated and identified and then replaced? This concerns me. The other thing that concerns me about that is that we are currently incurring debt that the state has said clearly they're not going to pay for. So who's going to pay for these unnecessary excavations in areas that are predicted to have copper lines? You know, what's going to happen is this debt is going to accrue and accrue, and there's no guarantee that the state's going to pay for that. And I guess the city can take the state to court or whatever they want to do, but ultimately there's no guarantee that we have a way to pay that debt. And even if there were a lawsuit, you know, it takes a year, 18 months, 2 years for a lawsuit to come to court. Meanwhile, we are incurring debt with these traditional excavations. So I think that's a serious issue for the city, because how are we going to pay for that debt? What happens with you when you incur more debt than you can pay? What happens to you? You go bankrupt. And that's one of my fears for the city. And the other thing is actually the last issue based on the, well, actually 2 more. One, the Ethics and Accountability Board. It's clear that we have to ensure that they have the funding in order to be able to function the way the voters in this city voted to have them function. And then the last thing is also on the state's letter, and that is that I don't know what the problem is with the reimbursement requests that we are sending in. Our city, the CFO assures us that they're right up to date and everything's ducky, and then we get letters from the state saying, no, it's not. So what as a council can we do about that? You know, I don't know, but these issues, this is what we need to be concentrating on. This is what the residents deserve, and this is what our efforts should be going towards.
Thank you. Councilman Guerra.
Yeah, I just wanted to say happy Veterans Day to all those veterans that are listening, and to the families of veterans as well, to kind of thank them for their service, and also to remember those who did not make it home to be veterans. And I want to actually just kind of reach out to all the residents that are listening and to encourage them to, you know, with the weather change. I know that we have the leaf pickups going on right now, and to drive safe with the snow and a little mixture of that. And I also want to give a shout out to Mr. A.C. Dumas, actually, because he did what I like some residents to do. If you don't like a specific way I may have voted, or you do agree with the way I voted, please let me know. The residents need to remember that they are the ones that put us in these seats and they're in charge. So please let your elected officials know what's going on and how you feel about that, even if it's not necessarily how we may agree. Maybe we'll have the opportunity to explain to you a different point of view of what's going on, or maybe you'll be able to explain to us something that we didn't see. So I kind of encourage our residents across the city and across the state and across the nation to do so. I want to give a shout out to the governor-elect, Gretchen Whitmer, and all the other legislators that are going to be serving us in the January term. And I'm looking forward to the rest of their elections to come in 2020 as well. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Any other council additional discussion? Councilwoman Worthy.
Point of information, Mr. President.
What's your point, Councilman?
Do you know when I asked for this additional discussion, it was because of the limits on council discussion, and this is just taken away from what I had asked for it for with these arbitrary 5-minute rules. I'll wait to see if I can get to other subject matter.
Okay. Councilwoman Worthy.
First of all, I'd like to clarify what I said earlier, and that is that I do not think, Mr. Mays, that you think I'm a racist. I don't. I think it fits your agenda, and it distracts from what is going on in this city, and it's unfortunate, and it makes me sad. I mean, this whole meeting has made me sad that our city is racially divided, and I don't believe it's actually a racial issue. I believe it's a heart issue. Moving on, I do believe there are things that we have been distracted about that are extremely important. And we were not able to voice our questions and our concerns at the financial hearing, and that is why we left. And I would hope in the future that our colleagues would leave with us. When one colleague is silenced, that means their ward is not getting their answers, their constituents are not getting their answers. We should all walk out and protest, or the behavior needs to stop. AECOM got paid $5 million. They have paid consultants millions or thousands, and they are the consultants. We haven't got our answers on why the consultants are paying consultants what they do and why they're getting that money. Concerned pastors took them to court in April because they were not using the predictive model. The judge ordered that they needed to use the predictive model, and they have not. Mr. Wong testified at the financial hearing based on the questions I asked and said that it was maybe just part of what he was using. So that is a concern. Our city and AECOM is supposed to be using the predictive model to find out where the lead lines are, and they are not. Why is that?
Point of information.
What's your point, Councilman Mays?
Wouldn't it be fair to say they integrated that in as one factor?
I'm sorry, Mr. President, this is just final comments. There's no... Okay, additional discussion, whatever. Yeah. Okay. So, again, I believe Mr. Mays interrupted to throw me off track and not go along with my line of questioning. This should be a concern for everyone. And the fact that AECOM, I believe, have had inconsistent answers, have been taken to the court and not followed the directive, is a concern to me, and it's a concern for my residents, and I'm going to sit here and ask questions. I will not be bullied. I will not, be interrupted. I will ask the questions. So yes, we held a press conference, and I will always do what's right. It is the right thing to stand up to those who would not let you speak. Our voices will not be silenced, and we need answers. I would love to see the financial hearing continue. I would love to be able to speak to AECOM, again, to ask these questions, but there is something going on. I don't know all the pieces, but we need to find that out.
Councilwoman Galloway.
Thank you, Mr. President. Part of my question is trying to understand the purview of additional council discussion. And the reason why is I don't want additional council discussion to in some way manipulate a vote of changing the rules. If we as a body decide that we are going to suspend the rules to give the extra time to have discussion, I respect that. But if there is some sort of a, and I'll use my term not to be disrespectful, but if there is some sort of a loophole that is used to still allow that to happen, I'm concerned about that. I just want to understand that better. But I will say this. I wasn't here for the press conference, but I was here after the press conference. And the things that are being discussed tonight were shared, but the press conference was individuals voicing their concern. I was here after the press conference, and Councilman Mays had the full attention of the same press that was there for the two colleagues. So they both, in my opinion, had the opportunity with the full amount of media to get their viewpoints out. And so I say that to say both of them were able to share their sides of that information. And so to make all of us that were not a part of those press conferences have to sit up here and hash through that, I don't feel like it's a respect of my time. I support my colleagues. I believe that there is something that needs to be done, and we've all beat that horse as hard as it can be to better respect each other's opinions, better deal with each other's personality in an effort to stay on task. And what I will tell you is they use an example of people coming together with different belief systems and different even patterns of life. But the thing that caused them to remain on task is the goal that they were trying to accomplish. And so because they focused on the task at hand, they were able to set aside their differences and agree that this was the most important thing. And so I am going to say to my colleagues, as much as I respect and want to hear you, I am not going to stay in meetings where we have completed city business to kind of hash through things that don't concern the constituents and actually, in my opinion, cast a negative light on this council. And so I want to say for the record, for those of you who are speaking those things of absences, I want you to understand how those absences came about. Those absences literally, for some people, led because they felt frustrated in one committee meeting. They could start there as being present in the finance committee and get frustrated and leave, and because they left, they missed legislative, governmental ops, and grants, and therefore that one day created 3 absences. When you are at work, and you come into work and you leave early, you are not counted absent because you were there. You lose the hours you didn't work, but it's not an absence. And so I want this council that is spewing those amounts to know that there may be reasons why that happened, and it's not fair. And I'm just saying, I appreciate those that are there, but there are different things that happen. People have children, people have emergencies, people have time. And so that's all I wanted to say. We need to respect each other in that manner.
Okay. Are there other...
Mr. President, point of order, if I may.
What's your point, Council?
Most agendas have old business, new business, additional council discussion, and so just for order, this ain't nothing to circumvent nothing. This is orderly.
Okay.
I have a point of information.
Okay.
And I'd say this really, we always say that council, is it fair to say that council meetings are not the meetings for committee discussion? And would it be safe to say that this feels more like committee discussion than council discussion?
Point of information.
What's your point?
Wouldn't it be fair to say, listen to the discussion before you judge? We ain't through discussion. Okay.
Point of information.
Are there additional council?
Point of information.
Oh, I'm sorry. What's your point?
Thank you, Mr. President. Point of information. Yes, it would be a committee meeting if it hadn't been public as of such. A formal hearing to the public is not a committee meeting. Press conference is not a committee meeting.
Point of order.
Here we go. We're good at this. What's your point?
I'm sorry, but the point of information is being abused. These aren't points of information.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Are there any other additional council discussion? Hearing none, our attorney wanted to Councilman Mays.
Mr. President, don't say, is there any more council discussion? Hearing none. Listen at the subject matters. Ms. Fields talked about what need to be asked in the hearing, what she want to know, what questions need to be asked. Ms. Galloway didn't pick up on that. That's committee discussion.
Right.
But she can do it out here, Ms. Galloway, if she want to talk about it. But don't pick up on this as something to circumvent. Every agenda should have new business. And so I ask that be on here for council discussion, not just to talk about false allegations of folks holding press conferences in the middle of the week calling folks racist. But if Ms. Fields now want to get slick, Ms. Worthen now saying after she stood with her, she don't believe I'm a racist. Well, the election over. It was politically motivated, in my opinion. Now Ms. Fields, she want to talk about questions she need to ask in the hearing like it's important, but we just had a committee meeting and her, Worthen, and Griggs wasn't here at 4 o'clock. Now we talking about these false allegations. She want to divert, bait, and switch and say what we need to be asking like she couldn't ask it. She can say what she want to ask here. She can give it to me in writing. She don't have to like me. She can give her questions to you. So it's a way to ask questions. All you got to do is sit here, but what you won't do is make statements, make personal attacks and false allegations under the meeting that I chair. So this was a push to try to threaten you about presidency and voting and who gonna chair a meeting in the future that she must want to chair. So I know what it is, and I don't put additional council discussion or new business, and the media just writing it down. Let me say this to the media as it relates to Kate Fields' comments. When it comes to what we need to ask as it relates to $559 million or more dollars flowing from the state to the city, you won't hear it here. And if Ms. Fields got some questions and she that serious about them, don't just talk them to you. Submit them to this president and finance chair and this committee if she already know what they are. Come to the meetings and discuss them. Stay long enough where when the presentation that the witnesses do is over, you can ask questions just like Mr. Davis, Mr. Guerra, and the ones who stayed for that period of time. Just like you see me having to conform to these council rules of 2 minutes in responding and respecting the chair and the president in a way where I can make my point and disagree and put stuff on the maneuver that way. Don't get frustrated because of your ignorance or lack of knowledge as to how to maneuver and do agendas. I can help you with that. I can help you with the proper way to do an agenda. I can help you maneuver around Robert's rules. We can change the rules and say if you don't understand Robert's rules and you don't know how to make motions and do stuff properly, we can help you. But don't get frustrated and go to making personal attacks, which is against our rules. And so I'm looking at the politics now. They failed. Mr. Winfrey is the president. Ms. Galloway is the vice president. Right now, I'm remaining as chairman of finance. Get it straight. And we'll continue to have some one-on-ones. And we'll see if I remain after the one-on-ones for the rest of this term. I'm going to try to predict so don't come out of this, Amy and others, with bad news stories. This is a story where we were successful. The vote was 6-3 and 5-2 and 1. All of them numbers mean something. All of them people who voted means something. It's important to understand who voted with who's in the minority, who is the majority. And it's important for you to be at our council meetings, committee, to know that the questions that Ms. Fields is talking about, we already got covered. She just ain't there. We know what we should ask, and we'll take questions from her and anybody else. It's just a lie to say they can't speak. Your camera should show she say she speak 2 words and get interrupted and cut off. I bet you can't find that to be true. I bet you can't. And she gets to speak. When I'm chairing, Ms. Galloway, Ms. Fields, check all the records she asked you to look at. They speak more than I do when I'm chairing. So enough of this nonsense. And Mr. Winfrey, when I ask for new business, additional discussion, I would pray and hope. Don't put no time on it. It ain't 5 minutes one time and then 2 minutes the second round. If we want to put a motion on the floor about council rules and racism, if we want to put a motion on the floor about what questions to ask, remember, additional discussion, I originally said they made a motion in committee, but they wasn't here to know they might should make a motion in council meeting in order to deal with the scope. You remember that discussion in committee? But they don't know I said that because they wasn't here. And so I'll try to share it with them. Ms. Fields, y'all passed a motion in a special finance committee that didn't have a resolution. The order of business is it moved from finance committee to this meeting. You wanted to expand the scope. You can't do it in finance committee meeting. The motion was made, but right now would be the time to make a motion and see if you could pass it in regular meeting, because we move stuff from committee to regular. And we're here. I didn't give you a vehicle to do it, additional council discussion, but y'all don't know that we said that needed to be done. Because I done ruled that the scope ain't expanded, Ms. Fields. The scope wasn't expanded in a vote in committee. It don't work that day. It took us 2 months of resolutions to get that scope set. And the motion you put on the floor, the rules say we act by written resolution. That wasn't no written resolution. That was a vote in committee meeting, and I have to catch it because I'm the chair. You might better see what a motion looked like in this meeting. And you might better use the words, do all things necessary, because if you look at a resolution in this meeting, when it comes in this meeting, it should already have the proper signatures on it. It should be signed off by the city attorney as the form. And so listen, Ms. Fields, you out here running to the media trying to legislate.
What's your point? How many of these 7-minute things do we get now?
We're done.
Oh, that's still.
Well, no, Councilwoman
Fields. It's been 7 minutes.
Well, Councilwoman Fields want to talk, and so once Councilman Mays wraps up, then Councilwoman Fields, and then
Mr. President,
are you going to listen,
I
Mr.
wouldn't argue.
He's already over 7 minutes.
He done used that to get the flow. Point of order. He out of order.
Mr. Griggs, you asked me a question, and every time I ask the question, you won't allow me to answer it. And
answer it then.
Well, if you're gonna, then you have to be.
What do you want to do? Give him more minutes?
Proceed and wrap up.
Yeah, Mr. President, if Ms. Fields want to chime in, but I'm telling you, Mr. Griggs, Ms. Worthen, and Ms. Fields wasn't here. I'm trying to help them. They think they done voted on something that technically they ain't because they wasn't here. I spoke about it in this meeting. So I don't care if I help them or not, but they got to be here to know the rules. And then when the rules is written, and we act by resolution and or ordinance, and we did that on the first phase of the hearing. I don't want them going out there telling the news folks and others what done broadened and they don't understand the technicalities. Surely Mr. Griggs couldn't walk you through how to get a resolution through, I don't think. Ms. Fields tried to be an expert, but she didn't realize that it ain't technically been broadened the scope, but she think it have because she made a motion in a committee meeting and don't know the follow through. So I'm trying to calm this down. What we do and what we know means something. I'll yield, but I didn't do discussion for stuff to be boxed in. This is like new business.
Mays, I understand that.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Councilwoman Fields. And then we want to hear from Attorney Wheeler. Go ahead, Councilwoman.
I'd just like to say that once again, and this proves my point, Councilman Mays does not seem to be able to debate the issues. Basically, he spends his time denigrating other people. I don't know, talking to hear himself talk. I really can't speculate, but I don't hear anything that addresses the issues that are affecting you, the residents. And if any time that I leave a meeting early, usually the reason is because the meeting has devolved to, and I will say this, the Eric Mays show. It's Eric Mays going on for 20 minutes, half hour, denigrating other people, bad-mouthing everybody he can bad-mouth, revising history. You know, and it's just, I was elected to represent the constituents, not to just sit here and take abuse from Eric Mays. And I said it's the year of the woman. It is the year of the woman. You know, even before that, I am a feminist from way back, from the Equal Rights Amendment during the 70s. I will not sit here and be abused by a man. I refuse to do it. And if our officers don't ensure that doesn't happen.
What's your point?
Do she mean allegedly abused?
Okay, proceed, Councilwoman.
No, I mean abuse, and it is abuse what I've been enduring. I'm not going to sit here and listen to it. I have no obligation because there's no city business being conducted. In fact, it's the opposite of city business. So if I'm not here at any time, it's because no one has been put a stop to the abuse, and there's no point in being here. And as a matter of fact, where we are now, it's the same situation. So I would say to you, congratulations, Mr. President and Vice President, and I'm through with this meeting because we're no longer conducting city business.
Okay. Attorney Wheeler.
Thank you. I just wanted to correct the record. I know that Councilwoman Worthing mentioned earlier that the court ordered predictive modeling, and that is incorrect. The court did not order the city to use the predictive model. As a matter of fact, the settlement agreement does not require it, and the NRDC on this issue withdrew its motion with regard to this issue after the hearing that was held on this issue in court. In addition to that, the state declined to weigh in on this issue and effectively abstain from this issue. So I just wanted to clear that up. That is supported by the actual record in the court.
Okay.
Mr. President.
Councilman Mays.
Mr. President, and that's the concern I got. When Ms. Fields and them give out information, we have to correct it. It wasn't a court order. When Ms. Worthing gave out information, it's incorrect. So what they're doing, they're giving out incorrect information. They walks out constantly the meetings. They're not here to get the good information, and then they come in here and raise heck with bad information, getting it out to the media, and then say, when we meet and we ain't conducting business, and they leave. And this body ain't designed for individuals to give out bad information, lie on folks, and then leave constantly, repeatedly, meeting after meeting, and then ignore the good information. So I think it's time that we understand that as a community. We understand it as the media. I mean, I looked on every channel and the media gave these women credibility. Every channel. Now, if I called the press conference to call them names, would it rise to the same level? I don't know who owned these channels. But this then rose to, I think they told me it was saying Stay tuned. You know, when they say stay tuned coming up at 6, this big. It ain't that big. The media have to stop giving these two on this 9-member body council who leaves repeatedly. This ain't been just them not here and leaving what your cameras see today. This has been happening week after week, month after month. And Ms. Galloway, I just can't protect them. 35 absences is 35. And if you can't do the job and you can't be here, then resign. Let me say this. Ms. Fields says she won't be here to allegedly be abused. She wasn't abused tonight. In my opinion, y'all been here, but she still left. She still left. Just outright not being truthful. And look at the media. Racism, lies, and deceit sells newspapers. Controversy sells newspapers. I seen in the Flint Journal my picture of a black man with 2 white women accusing me of being a racist. That's what the picture was. Controversy sells newspapers. So all I'm appealing to you, Mr. President, and to this council, when people go outside of our meetings, hold a press conference, can talk for a half an hour and field questions, when we get inside our meetings, don't tie our hands. And so I appreciate your indulgence, Mr. President. That's why I voted for you. That's why I voted for this majority to stay the same, because I wouldn't even know if they got presidency. Now, she got 3 votes, and guess what? I wouldn't even know if they would be here. I don't even know how fair and truthful they would be. So if the Lord is my witness, guess what? The right 5 voting. And Mr. Winfrey, believe me, I know what I do right and I know what I do wrong. But what they alleging ain't true. What I work on and do to make myself a better council person, I say to you and the public, I'll do. I'm not perfect, but I'm not what they say I am. But they starting to make me mad. Thank you, Mr. President.
Councilman Guerra.
Make a motion that we adjourn.
There's a motion on the floor that we adjourn.
Mr. President, I support.
There's a motion on the floor, and it's properly second.
Oh, we ain't
Madam Clerk.
Okay, Mr. Griggs.
Are we going to enter discussion or just vote?
No, let's vote. I can't believe you want to discuss.
Okay, I'm not going to waste the city's time anyhow. Yes.
Okay, Mr. Mays.
Yes.
Mr. Davis.
Yes.
Mr. Guerra.
Yes.
Ms. Winfrey Carter.
Yes.
Mr. Winfrey.
Yes.
Ms. Galloway.
Yes.
It is 7 yes, 0 no to adjourn.
We are adjourned.